Hi,
Hi, hi.
how
How's
are
it going?
you? Good, good.
Amazing. Thank you. How's
How you guys
Pasadena?
doing?
How are you?
Very good, really good.
Thank you both.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for
Thank
your
you.
time.
Thank
So
you.
Oh,
Thank
yeah, my pleasure. How you guys doing?
Oh, fun.
Amazing.
Yes.
It has been 3 years since we last spoke. We were talking about it last time we spoke before Justice League and Army were coming out, and now we're waiting for Rebel Moon Part 2. So
Yeah,
Okay.
fantastic, fantastic. So, yeah, we're. I mean, we're just finishing now. We almost are. We're almost all done with the PG-13, and we're working on the director's cuts. As we go. So, I mean, that's what we're working on primarily right now is finishing the director's cuts. The two, and those will come out probably on the same day, later.
Oh,
We don't have a date. We don't have a date yet, but I think it's going to be, in the summer.
amazing.
perfect.
Wow. A nice double feature. Really, really nice.
Exactly. I think it's interesting because you'll get to see, they're each about an hour longer than the original, other than the PG-13, whatever. So they're both. So it'd be nice to see the 6 hours together. You could take a break, of course, but you have a nice. I mean, I think it'll be interesting because it's more maybe immersive experience. For the. I think it'll be. I'm interested for people to see it that way because I think it's so. And it's very. It's very adult, it's very R-rated, so it'll be interesting.
Can't wait.
It's gonna be. I think. Well, I think for the, true fans, I think it's gonna be really. I mean, it's why I made the movies anyway. Really, the deal, the sort of, the reason that I was able to make these movies that I'm working on right now was because I made the PG-13 versions for, Netflix broader audience. And then I could make the really sort of more boutique-y, impossible movie,
Yeah, we love your extended version.
A long story of extended version.
Yes. Extended version. Yeah.
Or director's cut.
Yeah, sure. Sure. Yeah, extended version. What's that?
It's the Snyder cut.
It is.
It's always
really,
that. Yeah.
It always is. It's an interesting sort of I think slowly over time, we've gotten into this, our brand, if you will, or the way we make films and the way we think about making movies is very much like, it's like now I think the thesis is try and make movies that have no business existing. You know what I mean? I think that's that's, as we look at it, these movies, the hardcore versions of all my movies shouldn't exist. And I think that's the cool, that's fun for fans and fun for audiences to see a movie that really, from sort of a economic standpoint and sort of a, if you were greenlighting a movie, these movies shouldn't have been made the way that I really want to make them. But I do feel like over time, you realize that that's the best version of the movie, and that's the movie that people want to see. So it's an interesting sort of experiment, if you will, in how you present material and how you. The cool thing about in this case, I was able to negotiate and sort of make a great deal, I think, with Netflix, and they were really actually very courageous and honorable to take on this concept where if I could make them a PG-13 version of the movie that's close to 2 hours long out of this insanity that I thought of, then they would let me do whatever I want with the director's cuts. And that was a pretty cool, I think it's a cool thing for them to, you know, go into like right away. I sort of conceptually, they went into it knowing that, which I thought was really, really cool. And frankly, since I knew that, it made it really kind of a different experience, something I've never done before, where I knew I had the director's cuts sort of in my pocket. And so I felt a little bit more freedom, I guess, if you will, because I knew that they would see the light of day, you know, they would exist. So, but I'm sorry I hijacked it. Do you guys what do you have in mind? Anything that you want to talk about?
In Rebel Moon, we can see all your passion and love for cinema. Star Wars, Kurosawa is an amazing movie. But what should we expect from the extended version?
I think what you get, in my opinion, you know, from the extended version is a little bit more. It's more deconstructivist, you know. It's more. It takes it apart a bit more because I think the adult sort of the violence and the sex and the sort of over-the-topness of the idea allows you to it allows you to see the idea from another perspective, from an adult perspective. And I think seeing it from that perspective, like we all grew up with this stuff. And so now that we're grown, what does it mean now? Like, what are the tropes? Why do the tropes exist, and what do they mean? And I think that's a lot more in evidence in. I feel like the PG-13 versions are really earnest. You know, they end up being really earnest and sort of serious. And I'm not saying that the R-rated version is funny or a comedy. It's not at all. They're super hardcore, but they're so hardcore that they actually offer relief, because it's some of the violence is so over the top that you can be separated from its reality, you know, so to speak. And I think that's that, and then you can start to sort of understand what I was sort of looking for, I think, from the genre, you know, and from the sort of there's such a crazy and vast mythological landscape within the constructs of science fiction that sort of touches on almost every aspect of myth making and storytelling and kind of archetypal ways of expressing, you know, over time. Like I think that I think so. For me, it's so rich, and so I think that, you know, in this R-rated version, you really do get an opportunity to kind of see those things a little clearer, I guess, if that makes any sense.
It's absolutely amazing. And to continue from what you were saying about, you know, Rebel Moon, by the way, an amazing movie. I really loved the PG-13 cut. Can't wait for the extended versions and part 2, obviously. I wanted to ask you something about your movie making and your relationship with myth, with you know, the Campbellian hero's journey. I wanted to ask you that in your movies from 300 to, you know, your Superman saga, Rebel Moon now, you always mix the heroism of you know, an historic level of heroism with modern deconstruction. If you had to name the reasons why these themes, the Campbellian's journey, speaks to you, which reasons would you name?
Well, I feel like I guess for me, I'm fascinated by these. Like I was just saying, I'm fascinated by the sort of archetypal, sort of the constant, the primordial hero's journey, you know, that exists in numerous cultures in the same way, and why, and what about that. But I also, and I feel like, and so I have a great reverence for this, you know, hero striking forth from the village and going on this great adventure into the underworld or into the overworld, wherever it is, and bringing boons back for the people, and the whole cycle is something I find really fascinating. Now, that said, I think the other part of me wants to poke holes in it, to destroy it, not to destroy it out of violence, but to see how it's made, you know, to crack its shell and understand it. And it's elusive and it's impossible, because I still love it. So I won't destroy it completely. You know, I'm in this weird battle with myself, you know, to destroy and repair and destroy and repair. Never take it all the way down, you know, because I don't know why, but I won't take it. I won't, you know, it's like, you know, we talked about this, like, whole, people always say, like, you know, your myths are only as good as you, they're only as good as what they can take, you know, like myths, and that is to say, like, what can your myth stand as far as deconstruction? Like, if you break its canon, can it survive? You know, like, for instance, you know, we talked about, oh, Batman doesn't kill anyone. Batman can't kill. It's impossible for him to kill. If he kills, what is he? You know, is he gone? Is he no longer your hero? Is he no longer Batman? Is he something else? You know, and I just don't know. And so that's the thing I'm fascinated by. Like, what is what breaks the same myth that you love? You know, it's a very yeah, it's a question that I grapple with quite a bit, and I lie, and frankly, it fuels me, and I love walking that edge. You know, it is what Watchmen is, you know, in a lot of ways, and why I was so attracted to it, and why I still, as a piece of work, think it's incredible, because it does exactly that in kind of a really perfect way. It says, you know, these are gods, and then it says the gods are us, and the gods are broken. But it also says that there's a way through, you know, there's hope. It's not a completely, you know, it has darkness in it, of course, and it's crazy, but it also there's hope in it, you know, and I think that's why it doesn't break. You know, that's why I'm sort of attracted. Same with Dark Knight Returns, you know, frankly, Dark Knight Returns is like, takes it apart all the way, but loves it at the same time, you know, and I think that's kind of my, you know, has been my sort of the way I've looked at it.
It's amazing. Thank you.
Thank you. And to build on what Massimiliano was asking, because me and Massimiliano are writing a book about you called The Myth Maker. So about you and mythology and all this archetypal world in which all your films are set. And a character that really hit me a lot, that resonated me a lot, was Princess Issa in revolving. As well as in the DC saga was Superman. So the idea of Messiah, the archetypal of the archetype of Messiah. Why for you is important to have a modern Messiah? What's the difference from the ancient Messiah and Snyder's Messiah? What's
these sort of Masonic characters, to me, messianic, they really attract me, because I think I don't know, like, you know, it was my upbringing, or you know, I grew up in a religion called Christian Science. I was fascinated in my youth by a book called Illusions, which was written by Richard Bach. It's a very, it's a metaphysical book about, you know, sort of the nature of reality, or whatever you want to. But it also is very sort of Judeo-Christian, and I mean, it does have Eastern aspects to it, I would say, but, you know, mostly and I guess you could argue that even those Eastern religions, Buddhism, you know, they have their messiahs as well. Messiahs are not a exclusively Christian concept, obviously, but I think the thing about the Illusions, and sort of the thing that's interesting about Christian Science as I grew up, was that in its philosophy, it talks about that there's a part where the main character in Illusions, the Messiah character's name is Donald Shimoda. Donald Shimoda says, he's talking to Richard, and he's talking about being the Messiah and that it's a difficult job. And what he says is, he says this thing about, like, when he was confronted with the concept of being the Messiah, he tried logic. He's referring to Jesus. And Jesus said, I'm the Son of God, I'm the Son of God, but so are you. The works that I do, ye shall do, right? So, like, that concept that we're all Messiah, right, in our time, was, like, really struck me in my childhood as, like, a really profound way of thinking about it. That we're all on, like, these messiahs are ahead of us on some sort of giant wheel, you know, they happen to just reach the destination early. And so I think that started me sort of on this philosophical journey toward, like, this understanding of Messiah, and what it meant, you know, to us in society, and to me personally, and to my sort of culture. And so it stuck with me, and it happens to be that the people, you know, it's like, it happens to be that the work I love, and the fiction and the religious work I love, seems to center around, you know, a Messiah character, or, like, I guess that's what like I said, that's what Superman is. As you said, like, Superman, my favorite characters, like Manhattan, Superman, Issa, whatever, those characters are all sort of this godlike, God among us characters, but also they're also grappling with their place in, you know, among mortal men. That's where my fascination sort of began. And then, you know, when you look at sort of Arthurian legend, you know, for me, you know, Arthur is probably a more, what I would say, grounded Messiah in the sense he's the chosen one, but he's us, you know, he's more us. And I guess and that goes back to what I was saying about, like, the sort of Richard Bach concept being that I'm the Son of God, but so are you. The works that I do, ye shall do. That concept really makes sort of the King Arthur, and I would say my Issa and King Arthur, and Quest Nights really hit home for me, because I love the idea that these a god that stands in both worlds. You know, he has one foot in this sort of legend, and he's mythical, and he's got a place in history, and then his other foot is very squarely in the sort of real minutia of like the everyday world and what he has to do to survive and take care of his family and all that stuff. And that's why I think King Arthur, it's the part in Excalibur, you know, when Arthur goes to see Guinevere at the when she's in the nunnery, and she has Excalibur, and she says, you know, he goes, I hoped you'd had it after all these years. And he says, you know, I have a dream that one day, like in another life, I'll come to you and we can be just a man, and I'll be just a man and you can be just a woman, and we can just live like normal people. You know, like that's kind of like the human side of him, or the like, he's still, if it be thy will, take this cup from me, you know, like this, you know, that Jesus, even in his last, like, I really don't want to do this, you know, if there's a chance, if there's a way out, I'm happy to take it, you know. And I think that those kinds of, that idea, really, I've always been fascinated with. And I think that is the sort of, that is this religious myth deconstructing itself, you know, like those kinds of lines, those kinds of mythological concepts within the construct of these sort of gigantic archetypes, they're in there to deconstruct themselves, to ask themselves, the god asks itself a question within the context that it shouldn't ask, you know, like it shouldn't ask that, like, that means like, oh, this guy's afraid. How could he be afraid? He's the Messiah. How could he, you know, like all these things. But I think that I try and get those ideas. We're always constantly working with those ideas and trying to play with those ideas.
Thank you. It was really enlightening.
I wanted to talk about your world building process. Tell me something. Rebel Moon is all yours, all original. Tell me something about your conception of the world. I know about an interview that you say that you reconstruct all the history of the Rebel Moon universe from 100 years before and after the movie.
True.
So all true. So tell us something about this, about the world building.
Yeah, I mean, I guess it's innocent enough in that it comes from and started with this idea that there would have to be, because the basic concept of Rebel Moon idea is very the Seven Samurai part of Rebel Moon, which I always thought would be like, okay, this is how we would get into the universe. You know, it's a very sort of, it's a way in, you know, for everyone. Even though I would say the overarching story is much more, you know, a birth and resurrection story, you know, more than say this is a very simple story. But I think it's an easy thing to hang tons of mythology on, right? Because it's a pretty strong, as an infrastructure, it's pretty strong. And it can take the weight of like Issa myth and Jimmy's and all the crazy shit that we glued onto it. But in the process of doing that, frankly, we were like, okay, I think the first thing we did was I said, this is where I want the story to end. You know, I know that if I can get everybody here, that's the end. And so then what I did was, and in conversation, it was always about like, okay, from where we are in the story to that ending, we have to make sure we create canon that doesn't interfere with that journey, this journey. And then that canon can retroactively be launched backward in time, all the way to like the first myth of Moa, and the first Issa. There's 3 Issas, right? There have been 3 Issas in history, like this sort of prehistoric Issa, sort of a middle-aged Issa, and our Issa. And the 3 Issas, our Issa is the thrice-born. The Issa before that is the second-born Issa, and then the first Issa. And so the first age Issa. And those are primarily, that's what we talk about when we talk about, like when I talk to Adam or Kurt and Shay, and we're working on the story. Primarily, I'm always talking about Issa's. I'm always talking about Issa's trajectory and how she's going to like, and how she risen from the dead in both the first myth and the second myth. In our world, what we know, what you guys know, is that Issa's dead. You don't know much more than that. How she was killed, maybe that. I don't know if you have any ideas, but you find that out, right, pretty quickly in movie 2. There's a pretty early flashback that tells exactly what happened. But it's mythologically linked to, and you have to, a lot of this is in the director's cut as well, like the expanded, when Issa, or when Korra tells her story of being captured by Belisarius and brought into the Mother World's army, and what she saw along the way, that has there's other sort of, the Kalis and the Issas are like really linked. The Kalis are really much, I don't think the Kalis are mentioned at all in the PG-13 director's cut. So the Kalis, I think there was an image in one of the trailers, in the teaser trailer, if I'm not mistaken, of this giant woman in the engine room of the Dreadnought.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Where Korra sees her at the end of this walkway.
I think so, yeah.
Yeah, the Kalis are really, so they're Ru Kalis, that's what they're called. And the Kalis, we call them Kalis for short, but their full name is Ru Kali. And they are these goddesses from like another dimension that were like brought, that's a whole other story of how they're captured, and that they're all enslaved inside. Every dreadnought has a Kali at its core. Yeah. And that, the sort of goddess in chains concept, where we just think, if those things have been flying around for 500, 600, 1,000 years, and everyone who's aboard the dreadnought, I don't even know if they think that the thing is sentient. They just think it's embellishment, some sort of Giger-esque like architecture in the middle of the ship. They don't know that there's actually a sentient being inside of that thing that's been kept by the scribes in this sort of weird limbo, kind of half dream state. And then they use the Kalis, of course, to fold space, and that's how they move around the universe. That's how, once they figure out how to capture the Kalis, then they were able to really conquest the universe, because the Kalis act as their, basically it's their trump card they can play on the rest of the universe, because it's like this endless energy source that can do anything, that's kind of semi-magical, but also like and so I guess my point is only that it's a long rant, but I think that all of that, I knew that what was going to happen with the Kalis and with Issa and with Korra and with the Terax family and Titus and the blood axes and all that. So I knew, I was like, this is how it ends. So we really were able, and we did, and we really did the work. I was really adamant that we do that work so we could go backward and fill it all in so it makes sense. Because otherwise, you know, you kind of, which is not a problem, but you just let the story tell you what happens, you know. But I had it, I knew what I wanted to have happen. So it was a different process.
Amazing.
Yeah, it's a lot. I mean, it's fun. Look, it's fun work. I mean, it's the funnest thing ever. Because, you know, it's basically just like
to watch them. To read.
Yeah, you're basically just making up all this crazy shit. Yeah, exactly.
Also to read about it.
Oh yeah. We did a good job. I mean, yeah, she's crazy, but great. I love her.
And Basu, how would you describe Rebel Moon Part 2?
You know, Rebel Moon Part 2, I mean, look, the way the movie was designed, it was written as one story, obviously, both movies together. It's kind of a four-act script, a war film, really. It's a war movie that has a bit of, with a bit of lead up where we really understand and care for the harvest and the villagers, and there's enough time in the village before war happens to kind of really get invested in the village. That was really and then I really was interested in just like figuring out a way for these villagers to fight off, like how, like what, there's no chance, they have no chance, but they do. So
Zach, if I may, I wanted to ask you something. It's something that's rewatching your movies lately. I noticed your visual style is really evocative in you know, in the mythological way. That in many scenes, like your the shot that you have in almost all of your movies with the character and the camera panning behind it, like with the Batman and Doomsday, with in Dawn of the Dead, with the ambulance at the start, with the street. That reminds me, in a fantastical way, let's say, of the way myths were narrated in ancient times. You know, around the fire, I can imagine the old man, the old woman narrating the story, saying that stuff was happening like this, was happening like that, with the powerful imagery that once was just imagination, but now you can put on film. What do you think is the plus that cinema has to narrate myths, to narrate stories and mythological stories?
Yeah, I mean, first I'll say that, like, yes, I mean, the idea, without thinking about it too hard, I often have, I mean, all the way, I mean, 300, we literally have, you know, David's character is literally telling the story of the movie. And the thesis of that movie was that, you know, I said, well, you know, say if you lived in Greece, you might not have ever seen an elephant. And if the Persians came with an elephant, you know, if I was telling you the story of and describing to you what an elephant looked like, you would imagine it probably different from what it is. I might embellish the story a little bit, you know, to exaggerate the size of the elephant, because for me, if I did see it in battle, I remember it being much bigger than it probably really was. And so those things of, like, sort of the way how drama is intensified and elements of the story are, you know, exaggerated in a mythological way, you know, like, that is to say that, you know, to emphasize the story, was it 1,000 guys or was it 1,000,000? I don't know, somewhere between the two. A lot. If I say 1,000,000, do you understand it's a lot? You know, it's that work. you know, when you talk about a storyteller, it's funny because we're working on our, we have a Norse, you know, my Norse mythology animated series, Twilight of the Gods. And there's quite a bit, there's quite a bit in, now that I didn't even think about it until you just brought it up, but there's quite a bit of like, storyteller, tell us a tale. You know, they're always like, you know, they're constantly telling these crazy stories and visualizing them, and it's insanity. So it's really, it's quite interesting. And the whole thing, the whole Norse mythology thing is very much like in that style of impossible. Like, it's almost like the cool thing, the thing I love about Twilight of the Gods is that, you know, through animation and storytelling, you really can touch on the real symbolic and incredibly like rich sort of vocabulary of imagery, you know, that allows, you know, just insanity. Like you can really take it all apart, because we really did a lot of work to make sure that it was all in there, and it's really rewarding and cool. It's such a cool style too. I really enjoy it. But yeah, I think that the storyteller, it has become, for me anyway, and even just like whether I'm that character some of the time, you know, as far as like the narrator, I guess I'm always the narrator. Sometimes I pass it off, or I feel like I do, onto
the details of the situation.
Yeah. Like I could say like, oh, but the funny thing about it is like those shots, like where we're following, I always do like those shots where we're following the character sort of into the story, you know. And I think that the idea that there's like a passage that the audience has to sort of symbolically go through some sort of crucible or some sort of trial to earn the like perspective of being inside the film. You know, I think that that's really a thing that I think is really cool, and I'm fascinated by trying to make shots, especially early on in the films, sometimes or later, but early on, you'll often find some sort of like shot that like goes down a hallway or down, like follows a character into a room or through a door. I think a lot of times it's through a door, because the doors are very, I don't know, I have like a thing with doors.
The curtains in Sucker Punch.
Yeah.
At the start, and I think in the end, but we have to wait for the extended cut for that.
Yeah. Well, in the end of, like, you know, in the extended cut, I don't know, do we ever talk about this? Or I don't know if I've talked about it, but like, you know, the end of the director's cut, we know that Sweet Pea's gotten away, right? And it's trying to remember what happens in the theatrical version.
There's a Bach dialogue.
But what is the very last? What is the very last? It's the bus driving away is the very last scene.
Yeah.
Okay. So in the director's cut, Sweet Pea gets away, and then we go to Blue and Baby Doll in the basement. Like, it's that scene comes after. And the transition, see, because like the whole thing of like baby being like locked, you know, the lobotomy doctor locks her into that moment. Like he lets her free in a way, you know, because he takes her consciousness out of captivity. And so what happens in the very end of the director's cut of the movie is that so Blue's there, and he wants to, you know, he wants to fuck baby or whatever he wants to. I'm not 100% sure what he wants to do to her, something, but he can't because, you know, she's gone, you know, like he can't affect her because she's not there anymore. And so in some ways that's her revenge on him too. And then the cops come and grab the, you know, Gorski called the cops, and the cops arrive and grab Blue and, what are you doing? And the cop does it, you know, he does shine the flashlight on her. But what happens is the flashlight shines on her face, and she there's like a long moment where she looks like serene, and then she starts singing that song, Ooh Child, right? And then the set breaks apart. The whole bathroom like lifts and breaks apart, and she stands up out of the chair, and the camera does a big 360-degree dolly move around the back of her, and we look, and now we see she's standing on stage, and you know, she's in, all the characters that have died are in the audience, and everybody's there, and everyone sings, that all the girls come out and sing with her, and it's like the beginning. But one of the things is that earlier in the movie, in the scene, in the very first scene where we come in, and Sweet Pea's like says, when she's like, stop, like I can't, like, what is this? This isn't sexy. She and Gorski have the conversation about, and in the conversation, she says, like, you know, it would be better, can I pitch you an ending for the show? It would be better if it was like a musical number, you see, because like a song for the very end, because people love a song at the end, because it makes them think that everything's okay, you know? And Gorski's like, I don't know, you know, it's kind of rude, because like she's still like insane. It's rude to have a song. And she goes, it doesn't matter, you know, the audience and the critics are fickle, and they have short memories, and if they felt good at the end, then they'll think it was fun, you know, even though it is not. So they have that conversation like way at the beginning of the movie. So anyway, yeah. But yeah, there's a lot of other stuff, but that was that's one thing.
Another theme that really interested me and Massimiliano and all of us, I think, is the idea of the group. I mean, Rebel Moon is based on Kurosawa, on Star Wars, on a lot of archetype of the hero that joins around him a group that is a sort of, well, you talk about Messiah. Also, the Messiah has his apostles.
He does also have a team that they go.
You really quote a lot the Excalibur team, the round table. Can you tell us something about the idea of the group, and also about the possibility of seeing Zack Snyder's Excalibur one day?
Well, first I'll talk about the group a little bit. The group, the ensemble concept, the putting the team together, the sort of team building movie or story is really, it's so deep in my DNA that I don't even know, you know, and I'm sure it's comes originally from some sort of you know, Arthurian roots. I think that's where it must derive from. I guess, you know, Star Wars has a bit of it, but I think Star Wars isn't, you know, because there's the core group in Star Wars is smaller than, you know, it's like it's not like a big team where everyone brings their skill set, and they, you know, do it, you know, but, you know, this concept of like the Justice League, the Watchmen, not the, but the, you know, the idea of this band of powerful sort of gods or knights, you know, that come together around a single cause. Yeah, it's bothered me. It's definitely plagued me for quite a while. I haven't really resolved it. Now, I'll say, yeah, I've been working on a sort of a very kind of, I don't know if you want to call it dark, but very gritty, rough King Arthur story set like in the American West. And the reason I did that was because I was talking to Adam, and Adam and I were talking about this. Adam Foreman, who's this guy I work with, designed that shirt you're wearing. He, you know, the idea that Adam and I were talking about, like, well, okay, I'm not English, you know. If I grew up in England, look, you know, I have no problem with someone who's not English having a love of Arthurian legend. That's not it. What is it is that the images, my myths, American myth, is particular. You know, it also has a cultural sort of thing that happens with it. And I wanted to, like, but also a lot of American myth is, you know, has its roots in English myth. You know, that's kind of how it makes sense, you know. And so that's kind of a thing that we've been working on, this idea of this, it's kind of 1850s West Coast kind of gold rush era kind of setting, that I've sort of started to work on a idea. It's called Avalon right now. I don't know if that's what it's going to be called, but it's very, it's like, you know, it's got a bit of Blood Meridian in it. It's got all the, like, it's got all the shit I love, but also very much, you know, Arthurian. You know, it's got all those characters. They're just, you know, in different, but they're definitely, it's all based on those characters, you know, Arthur and Lancelot and Guinevere and Morgana and the whole group. They're all there, you know. They have funny Western names, versions of their names, but they're still there. But yeah, so yeah, there's really Percival, you know, the whole is like this whole, that whole thing with the chalice and it's all like, you know, just things that I find really cool. But then the real, and what I try to do is then just kind of relax that concept into the mythological sort of roots and base that I know are in my DNA as I, you know, was raised, and what's in the sort of fabric of the weirdo culture that's America. You know, that's been the sort of exploration, and it's been really fun. You know, like I said, I'm a big fan of Blood Meridian, and I love things like Jeremiah Johnson, and, you know, like that type of, that's Ron Cobb too, by the way, was a production designer on Jeremiah Johnson, and also John Milius wrote it. So, you know, pretty crazy, you know, group there. It's a pretty good movie. But anyway, yeah, so I hope to one day do that, because I think it'd be fun. I mean, like I would love it. And it's just like, you know, down. It's, you know, it doesn't have to be too long. I mean, we've been working on it a little bit, so it's not like it wouldn't take us long to do it, to finish it.
I hope.
So this is the funny part of this conversation. In Italy, 1 month ago, come out this book, All About You.
Oh, really?
Yeah. If you go to the bookshop in Italy, now you find this one.
Really?
Really. The writer of this book is now in the waiting of Zoom. Don't know anything that you are here. So
It's a
I don't know.
surprise for him.
It's a surprise. Don't know anything. So now
Okay.
I admit, and let's see what happened.
Okay, cool.
Okay.
Ciao.
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 Ma c'è che Zack Snyder?
Yes.
Yeah.
Sorpresa.
Sorpresa, Filippo.
Eccoci qua.
Non ci credo.
Ciao Filippo.
I don't believe this.
Hilarious.
Ok. Ok, non lo sapevo, è una... Cioè, ragazzi, ci mi avete distrutto.
Is quite shocked for now.
It's a little rude.
Yeah.
Ok, try to speak
Hey,
English,
that was
Italian.
they did it, not me. They did it.
Yeah.
Ok, Zack, vabbè, basta. Cioè, non so, adesso ragazzi, aiutatemi voi perché adesso sono veramente scioccato.
He's a bit shocked. He wants to thank you. It's a bit shocked.
I'm shocked, Zack. I didn't know nothing, anything. So, you know, just you know, forgive me. Now I have to take my, you know, my 5 minutes to, you know, keep on breathing. Okay.
No, it's
Filippo,
good. It's good.
Filippo spent 3 years to write
Jesus.
this. Is one of your hardcore fan in Italy, but in the world. I think he's one of the only book. I think that there is another one on the movement.
Yes, but it's not. It's really more about.
No, this is more about you.
Yeah, just it's more about the things that happened.
Yeah,
around
exactly.
Justice League. That's pretty much it. You know.
This is all about you. All movies, all your filmography. It's all you.
Wow.
I mean, Zack, this is a book I written, of course, knowing nothing of you, because there is, I mean, it's just a question of, you know, differences of ways of life, of nations, with different realities, you know. But I just watched, I just in a way studied, but I just loved your movies since the very first one. And then, you know, trying to understand you by your movies, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's like a work of art of an artist.
I mean, the only thing I'd say is that, you know, it's not, I mean, the only thing I would say as far as like it being a very viable window is because all the movies I've made, I would say, with the exception of Man of Steel at its origin, but then as I worked on it, I really squished it. But, you know, it's one of the, Man of Steel was one of the only projects where I read the script and said, yeah, I'll make this into a movie. Where everything else is very much, you know, even scripts that you know, like Watchmen, where my name's not on the script, I changed everything. You know what I mean? It's those, so all I'm saying is that in the movies, I have a very personal relationship to the movies. The movies it's not a job I do. It's not like a thing that I'm like, yeah, that was cool. I guess, you know, someone gave me a script and I read it and I thought, yeah, I'll make it in a movie. Like, I don't, you know me. I don't, it's a very much purely personal endeavor, you know, like, and so you get, and the reason why the extended cuts exist, you know, or the director's cuts exist on all those movies was because, you know, I just couldn't tolerate what I was being asked to do with the movies the way they were. It's not, and by the way, a lot of times it's subtle, like what they're having me do compared to like what, you know, they need, what they want to do for the theatrical version, but I can't, it's still too much, you know, so thank God for DVDs, you know, it's a great thing. I mean, oh, look, I'm giving a thumbs up. I didn't even know that.
Well, just my first question is, Zach, I mean, you said except Man of Steel, but in my view, in your filmography, in your career, Man of Steel is just sort of turning point.
Well, yeah, and I'll say the reason why I say that is because Man of Steel, and the reason why I did it when I read it was because I felt so connected to the story, you know. I felt like it was very much exactly what I would want to do. And so, I mean, and David and I worked on the script quite a bit once I got it, because I felt like we could just, where I really wanted to turn the volume up on the story, where because
change things.
Well, change things, yes, but also just like where you put the emphasis, where you spend time. That was really, you know, for me, that's what a movie is. Like that's the difference between, the basic idea and then it becoming sort of part of the way you express yourself. That for me is that's all in the telling, you know, like a movie. Yeah, I always say, look, a director only has his point of view. That's the only thing he has, you know, like that's it. Like, you don't have anything else. Like the way you see is it. Anybody, because, you know, for me, it's very much like you could tell me a story or I could, because we can all get the same. If I wrote like a page of dialogue and some stage direction, I could hand it to all of us and we could all go shoot it and it would all be different.
That anyway, you put yourself in the movie and you change the movie you're doing. And that's why
100%.
That's because you are an auteur. We say it autore in Italian, or auteur, an artist. You're not an executioner.
No.
You are a person who puts himself in the opera, in the making the movies and expressing yourself through the work. Okay.
100%.
This is the thing I believe in, because watching your movies, I in a way I can say that I know you.
Yeah. Well, and I guess that was my point. What
I am your friend. We are friends. You know, you don't know me, of course, because I didn't do anything. Just
well,
I can say that I am your friend.
Yes, because I absolutely everything, like what I put into the movies is like, you know, it's as personal as I could possibly express a thing. You know, it is exactly the way I see the world, you know, and so as intimate a thing as you watching the movie, my movie would be like me reading your diary, or me like, you know.
This is why, Zach, I mean, I wrote a book. I wrote a book to defend you, to defend a friend, because I just can only imagine what you felt in your career at each I mean, not because there's been, you know, a sort of division between many people loving your movies and many people hating you and hating
yeah. very
And
strong.
I cannot understand. I ask myself, how can you stand
I think
front
what
of all the hate you receive for your vision, for your way of life, your way of living?
one of your
Because it's not a critics on your work. It became a sort of attack on you.
Yeah. No,
The last
absolutely.
years overall, of course.
Yeah,
But
that's what I always.
I remember when you did the 300, when you reinvented the zombies of Romero, from the very first beginning, you received a sort of a refusal of yourself.
Yeah, no, it's true. And I mean, the good thing is that, like, what I felt is that, like, probably I would say, right around the time of BVS and sort of the BVS director's cut, the director's cut of BVS, I feel like when the director's cut of BVS was released, I felt a slight cosmic shift in the fandom, and that is to say that I felt the fandom was able to go, like, they had I had given them back a way to defend themselves, right? By releasing the film.
Because by defending you, we defend ourselves, because we are attacked. For
of
you,
course.
defending you, we are attacked.
And I feel like
and you don't know how much we are attacked.
By the way, I'm sorry,
I lost friends. I
do a little bit. I'm sorry about that. I'm sorry about that.
Life. Nothing to be sorry about.
It is life, you know. Life is not something, you know, paradisiac and everything goes well. As you grow old, as you become, you know, 40, 50, you know, you have to face life. And life is also somebody who doesn't understand you and refuse you.
Yes.
But the thing,
you know,
the incredible thing, cinema made us, you know, made us express ourselves, because you expressed yourselves, and by liking the things you did, we expressed ourselves, because there is a sort of, you know, connection between the artist and the people loving the opera, the work of art of the artist.
Sure.
But then there is the reality, the surroundings, no, the other people, you know. And so by that, we live in a society, just like, you know, just like you made the Joker say, we live in this kind of society of relationships. Okay, but it's very hard to I mean, when it comes to expression of ourselves, because you express your political way of views, your human ways of view by your movies. I mean, I understand, and it's very clear that you took off your clothes and became naked in front of many people.
Yeah,
this is something that, I mean, as a fan of myths, of it's an example you gave by, you know, risking your own sanity of mind.
Yeah.
And it's very, I mean, and so, you know, writing a book for you, okay, because it is just a book for you, it's just a way of thanking you and pushing you, and, you know, saying to you, keep on doing it, okay, no matter, because it just one person illuminated by this kind of an example you gave, it is enough. One person is enough, and you are showing a way to many people, and you have to know this, you have to understand this, you have to take your own energy to keep on doing it, okay? Because I can only imagine the sufferings, the pain you suffered.
Yeah, look, and the truth is that there is I do feel a catharsis from the sort of what I believe to be now, where, you know, I kind of felt like in the early days, there was a few people where when I would release a film, Watchmen, Man of Steel, and those around that time, Sucker Punch, that time where I felt like it was a piece of like I didn't know that there would be a group of people that could band together and talk about the movies and kind of have a community around it, right? I thought in those days, I thought, well, it's like a piece of, I release the movie and people watch it and then they forget about it, right? Like it's kind of like whatever. It's like a
social media made the community, grew a community and made us come together. With COVID, it was amazing. Before with the release of the Snyder Cut, we all came together as fans, as people, as admirers of your work, as Filippo was saying. Like I think one of your teachers said that your point of view is one of the most unique tools you can have. I think I read in an interview. It's something that social media made us come together to to appreciate your art together.
Well, and I guess that's what I guess that's what I mean is that like so at that point now where I feel like if some critic or some person is expresses a point of view that is not about whether or not they like the movie, because that is what it is. Like if you don't like the movie, you don't like the movie. But there is what I would consider what I think is like there's a this sort of cinema intelligentsia that has this issue. They really want me to be a fascist. They really want me to be like all these. They want me to be all these things that they think.
We are. Remember, Zach, we are in Italy, and in Italy there is, political fans that make up political point of view by your movies, by 300, for example, in a fascistic way.
Sure.
They are, they are using your vision, your diary, your
misrepresenting,
showing yourself to
and misunderstanding,
misunderstanding and manipulating that.
Yeah. Well, I guess my point is only that also, that the narrative that the certain group of people also, though, that would choose to sort of vilify me, they have a very clear idea about who they want me to be. They have all of it's very clear to them. Unfortunately, I don't think I am any of the things they think I am, and so it's a very and I guess then for me, I just like normally it's like I guess just recently I forget the guy, but anyways, my friend was telling me he saw this. It was this guy who was criticizing Dune, and there was a lot. He said he was talking about me in the review and how that the movie that this one part of the movie was so like hideous. It reminded him of a ZACK SNYDER movie. Anyway, the only thing I said to the guy was, I go, it's cool that guy, in some ways, like he can't watch a movie without thinking about me. He's like, I don't even know who he is. Like, as far as I'm concerned, I literally never read anything he wrote. I don't know who he is. He's nobody to me. But to him, I'm somebody very important, in his life, that he can't, that not only is he mad at my movies, he's mad at other people's movies that remind him of my movies. That's an incredibly powerful, emotional place to live in. I'm sorry, I feel bad about it, but it's like in the sense that I don't want to take up that much space in anybody's life. Like that guy take up way too much space, and also a negative. Like I take up this space in his life that's negative, that's really upsetting. He's like really mad at me for some reason, and he.
And by the way, the average comment on that review was, "That's a plus." So we were. That's a good thing that it looks like a ZACK SNYDER movie. Everyone was saying that's a plus. It's not a bad review. It's a good review.
Yeah, that's cool.
This is the thing happening to to artists, to great artists, because they create a sort of a reaction to their work. Okay, and it is I mean, it can be a good reaction or a bad reaction, no problem, because as you said, it is just in a way a question of liking or not liking, not the person but the work of art of that person. But I mean, if there is no respect in this relationship and you received lots of bad reactions not connected to liking something but to to go to not to be respectful on your person.
Sure.
And that's bad.
There's no other way to do it. I mean, for me, there's no other way to make a movie.
Because you're a real artist. Because you're
the way I make a movie is you get all of it, and that's the only way I can do it. I can't
just keep on doing it. Keep on doing it, because this is the only thing not only you can do, but this is the only thing which is that matters in this world, because this world is full of people, keeping avoiding this kind of act, not only in cinema but in life, hiding themselves because they are fearful of the reaction of the people, and so they become hypocrite. You know what I mean? And you show 100%. You show us a great courage, great nerve, a great you give us a great example of what to do in life. Show yourself. Don't be afraid to show yourself. Okay, and that's why I thank you, and that's why I mean, if I lose friends following you, I gain from the other hand other friends, maybe more trustful, more true friends. So no problem. I mean, this is the right way to live your life.
Yeah, to look beyond the surface. I think that many people look at the shiny patina. You have amazing visuals, of course, but they somehow fail to go beyond, to see what this visual means. They see it's beautiful, but it doesn't mean anything. But it means something because it's beautiful and it's perfectly crafted. It's something. It has a message.
Well, I mean, it's funny because I guess that's the thing. Like, it's just this desire for it to be dumb, I think, is or to be meaningless, I think, is the main thing. For me, it's like we spend a lot of time and put a lot of effort into the images so that they do mean something, and that they do have that many of them have are rich in mythological language and are rich in all the archetypal deconstruction that we talked about earlier. I just think that, like, some people just don't, that they don't care or whatever. And by the way, you don't have to. You can also watch the movie and get none of it if you don't want to, and it's still a movie for you, and it could still be amazing, and you could still think like that movie's awesome. But it can work on two levels, because it does.
I saw Excalibur when I was 11 or 10 in 1981 at the cinema, and it changed my life. And I when I went to the movies, I've seen a director in America, an American director. It's incredible to me, who understood that movie, which is very connected to European roots of culture.
Sure.
These guys met John Boorman. They talked.
Yeah.
And
they gave me his email address.
And but I mean, you've been able to use this kind of difficult idea but very important, very important.
Very
Because
compelling.
we are
idea.
human beings. We are human beings, all of us. And so we all fall and try, you know, to recollect, to rebuild ourselves, to go on living.
I also believe, you know, and I guess maybe that's the sort of, you know, resurrection thematic that we were talking about earlier, you know, is very much, it's very much, resurrection is a very important symbolic sort of concept to me that I find really intriguing and interesting. But yeah.
Zach,
Thank you very much.
thank you so much.
I mean, go on with your cinema. And
Thank you, Zach. Really.
Well, thank you guys.
Thank
it's always a pleasure. And
you're amazing.
thanks. I really appreciate it. And it's really fun. I can't wait for you guys, of course, to see the director's cuts of Rebel Moon 1 and 2, because I think you'll be very happy.
May we ask you only one small note before we leave you to your well-earned sleep? Thank you so much for
of course.
It's my time. Yeah. If you were to, you know, take a guess at to which your next movie you will be shooting will be, do you have any idea, any possibilities you can say? It's Rebel Moon, it's Planet of the Dead, it's something else, you know, let's photograph.
I don't know. I think that we, I mean, my hope is to do another Rebel Moon movie, but I think before we do another Rebel Moon movie, we will do a small movie. I have a bunch of interest from a bunch of small companies who want me to just do a crazy movie, like whatever I think, you know, they want to support me and just say, okay, we want you to do, like, you know, fuck commerce, just make us something crazy. And I'm like, okay, well, that sounds like a good deal to me.
Perfect.
Grande Zach, mi raccomando, in gamba.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, Zach.
Thank you, Zach.
May the force be with you.
Thank you so much, guys. Appreciate it.
Thank you. Thank
We
you.
love you.
Bye.
All right. Cheers.
Have a good
We'll see you
night.
soon.
Thank you so much.
See you soon. Bye.
Ciao.
Ciao.
Thank you.